Second case study, school and library buildings. Great Town County Council appoints Asbestos again to carry out management surveys on their school and library buildings. Asbestos, in their terms and conditions, limit their liability to £100,000. And we'll see all sorts of limits of liability clauses. It might be 10 times their fee, for example. It could be a specific figure. It could be limited to the limit of their professional indemnity insurance. In those management surveys, limited asbestos was identified by Asbestos. A year later, an electrician working on one of the buildings that was surveyed notices asbestos that hasn't been picked up by the original surveyor, notifies the council, who then appoint a new survey limited to resurvey all their buildings because they have no confidence in the original surveys that were carried out. Great Town sue Asbestos for the cost of resurveying, so new surveys costs, repayment of Asbestos' costs, the original survey on the basis that what they did was worthless, the cost of the necessary removal of ACMs which were missed by Asbestos, and that claim is £500,000. Great Town also seek an indemnity for asbestos exposure claims that might come in from staff, students, public, etc. Now, from an insurer's point of view, and they would be effectively covering the asbestos surveyor, anything like indemnities are an insurer's worst nightmare. They deal in certainty and they want to know what they are covering. And an open-ended indemnity with no information whatsoever is a complete nightmare. So they will be hoping that the limit of liability to £100,000 is enforceable. The case goes to court, and the court awards the costs of the resurveying against Asbestos. So new surveys, fees of £150,000 are basically awarded against Asbestos. In principle, we'll come back to the clause in a moment. The court finds that the repayment of Asbestos' fees are not recoverable and not awarded on the basis that the council would always have had to carry out one set of surveys. They can't get away with not paying any of the surveys. And they also conclude that the council would have always had to have the cost of removing the ACMs had they been discovered in the first place. That then takes us on to the limit of liability. And in this case, the court upholds the clause on the basis that the parties, the council aren't in a worse bargaining position. It was pointed out to them at the start, it was made clear, and they still accepted it. So on that very simple example, the council suffer a £50,000 shortfall in their claim, and they also shoulder the remaining exposure, if you like, to claims for disease in due course. So not a great outcome from the council's point of view. Learning points, check exclusion clauses and limits of liability clause. Again, keep pushing on this point. Don't leave it to chance, and as a client, use your bargaining power. And choose your asbestos surveyor carefully as well. Obviously, you want a decent... We're here with Lucian, say no more, but pick the right asbestos surveyor.